It was humanoid robots. They outran the humans. They're running, obviously, in a separate lane. But it actually broke the human world record. But it broke it by like 7 minutes, having been eons behind last year. Well, I'm sorry, some of these Chinese robots look like they're eons ahead of Tesla, which would be very interesting for those valuations. But anyway, tell me about this robot.
Oh, absolutely. And Tesla should be worried. And also perhaps its domestic rival Unitree, right? But this is the second humanoid half marathon event in Beijing after last year. And robots beat humans in quite a stunning show of speed and agility, especially after last year's chaos and mishaps with many falls back then. And even if this year actually featured even tougher terrains. Now, the robot from the Shenzhen-based smart device company Honor, which is a Huawei spinoff, claimed victory in 50 minutes and 26 seconds. That's compared to last year's 2 hours and 40 minutes by the robot champion back then. And this year, it beat the human winner of the event by 17 minutes. And as you said, it actually surpassed the world record for a half marathon set in March by a Ugandan runner by nearly 7 minutes. And in fact, robots from Honor, this company, swept the podium, taking second and third place as well, all using this model called Lightning. And it featured autonomous perception and navigation and also high-speed movement. Now, this robot champion, according to the company, was in development for a year, and it featured 35 to 37-inch long legs that mimicked human elite runners, and it is also equipped with a self-developed liquid cooling system by the company that is set to penetrate deep into the motors like the capillaries in our bodies to dissipate heat. And of course, Honor's liquid cooling tech is also used in its smartphones. And in terms of its control, it also used multi-sensor fusion and motion control algorithms to adapt to very complex road conditions and also to control the robot's center of gravity in real time.
Hello there, welcome back to the Business Gong. Here on this channel, we talk about business, technology, and things. Something dramatic is happening in the world of tech that has set alarm bells in Washington and in the tech industry ringing. But very few people are paying attention to this. For over a decade, many tech companies have been working on how to develop humanoids, or what we call human-like robots. And it's not been easy for them to break the code to have robots that can function as humans. But recently, last year, in 2025, China was able to host the first ever marathon in which robots were able to compete with humans. And during that race, there were a lot of robots that did not meet up to the target. The main two countries that were competing in that race were, we had the United States and China. And that was the debut of robots being used as runners. Now, this year, 2026, in Beijing, China was able to host the second round of humanoid robots competing with humans in a race. And the surprising thing is that the humanoids or robots were able to beat humans by breaking the world record by more than 7 minutes, leaving humans far behind. And this is a breakthrough because, according to the International Federation of Robotics, by the year 2050, China will be a leader, having more than 300 million robots that will be functioning in their economy. China is already a leader in industrial robots and automation, having more than 2 million robots working in different industries in China. That therefore means that China is already leading the world. United States, South Korea, Japan, Germany, France, the UK combined. China is leading them in industrial robotics or automation. And this is a new field in which the Chinese Communist Party or the government of China has set in place that by the year 2030 or 2030, China should be able to be a leading or having a command lead in human robots. I mean, human-looking robots. We also call it humanoids. And this is not a joke. Most often, analysts or economists believe that the economy of China will be slowed down due to the fact that the birth rate and labor will not be available for the industrial sector. But China is breaking the code and making nonsense of this theory. And therefore, the tech industry needs to pay attention to this. If China will continue to maintain the leadership in this sector, it will come to the point where China will be the leader, the world leader, just like they are in electric vehicles, in solar panels, and or smaller local models and so on. So we are experiencing China building the foundations to be the tech leader of the 21st century.
Now, last year, there were 20 teams. This year, participation ballooned to more than 100 teams. So that just really shows the level of interest and investments in this arena.
And it's so interesting, companies like Honor, you've got Xiaomi, EV companies, consumer electronics companies looking to leverage their supply chains to build these kind of robots. But given the advancements we've seen with these runners, Elaine, what does this mean for potential commercial applications or even industrial applications from what we're seeing in terms of the advancements these Chinese robotics companies are making?
So this is what these events are used for. Now, it's very interesting, as you mentioned, that we're seeing smartphone makers like Honor entering the arena, also, as you say, Xiaomi. So we see really consumer electronics players crossing over into the robotics space now. But experts have also said that the performance at the half marathon doesn't necessarily immediately translate into the dexterity, the efficiency that human workers display that are needed in factories beyond just repetitive and sort of smaller tasks. And in terms of household tasks, that's even a far longer term push. But for those who are worried about what this means for us humans as well, I just want to quickly mention that during a training session, a robot also tripped and was seen sort of convulsing pretty helplessly on the ground during a training session earlier and had to be brought out onto a stretcher. So there are, of course, hiccups and obstacles, but yeah, spectators at the event as well as engineers, they are impressed by the performance in this year's event.
China has solidified its position as the world's leading industrial robotics market, installing over 50% of all global industrial robots in 2024 and maintaining an operational stock of over 2 million units. Driven by labor shortages, state-backed industrial policies, and rapid innovation cycles, China is shifting from a reliance on foreign robots to domestic self-reliance, with domestic brands capturing 57% of their home market. China's, and in fact the world's, automation landscape has changed dramatically. By late 2025, over 300,000 new robots were installed in Chinese factories in a single year, outpacing the rest of the world combined, with robot density reaching 470 per 10,000 workers. This massive deployment is largely aimed at replacing human labor in sectors such as automotive and electronics.
Chinese companies, US robotics companies, they also have to source components from China because of its supply chain there. So this is where China is really doubling down and using its manufacturing prowess. And Morgan Stanley also doubled its humanoid robot sales volume this year in its outlook on humanoid commercialization for the year to 28K. And also the bank set component suppliers will be the first to profit from the industry's nascent growth.
Okay, we've just watched that and we've seen how China is making a lot of strides and is leading the industry. So thank you for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so that if I have any update, you will have the notification. Remember, be good. God bless you.